Senator Patty Murray just accused Trump's Justice Department of replacing law and order with chaos and corruption, and what happened next was explosive. Let's break it down.
We're joined by the Vice Chairman of the full committee. Senator Murray is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, we are in a deeply alarming moment where law and order is being replaced by chaos and corruption and really whatever Trump wants. And your department's independence and its capacity to do its job have eroded before our eyes. We have seen respected career officials who've been fired for doing their job. Thousands more are being pushed out with your buyouts and the threat of mass firings, and entire divisions are being eliminated, and grants have been canceled illegally. So I have questions about how and why those decisions are being made, and importantly, whether you're adequately resourcing DOJ to do its job. But before I turn to my questions, I do want to raise my alarm about the troubling pattern of trampling basic rights. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without any due process. Elected officials are detained for conducting oversight, and a U.S. senator gets tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is not the country I know or the values I believe in, and I hope that colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree with that. Now, to the questions. Yesterday, and I know that Senator Van Hollen raised this issue, a former DOJ attorney filed a protected whistleblower complaint accusing Deputy AG Emil Bove and senior DOJ leadership of defying court orders, including through, quote, lack of candor, deliberate delay, and disinformation, unquote. The complaint also accuses this administration of firing the whistleblower for, quote, telling the truth to the court. These allegations are deeply concerning. Now, I know you said that you can't discuss the case, but can you confirm that you agree that this administration should follow court orders?
We will follow court orders, Senator. The entire administration will follow court orders. The problem arises in the district courts. All these district courts throughout the country are tying our hands. But here's how we will follow them when we get to the United Supreme Court.
I need to ask
we're winning.
A number of questions.
And so, yes, we're following the orders of the court.
Let me ask my questions. Can you confirm you will not allow any conduct like what is alleged to continue at the DOJ?
I'm not going to talk about anything that's alleged. What I will talk about with you, hold on, you asked me a question and I get to answer it. What you asked me, alleged conduct that's part of a pending whistleblower lawsuit that was filed on the eve prior to Emil Bove's hearing today.
I'm not asking about that
suspicious.
Case
hold on, let me keep going. I would run through a wall for Emil Bove and Todd Blanche.
Like to continue with my questions. I have very limited time. Thank you. I just want you to confirm for this you will not allow conduct like that at the DOJ. Yes or no?
I will always support and defend Emil Bove, and I will defend Todd Blanche. They are two of the finest people I know and two of the ethical people I know.
I was asking about the conduct. Let me keep going here. Now, in April, DOJ abruptly terminated over 300 public safety grants that had already gone through a very rigorous and fair and apolitical application process with no explanation. This is funding to investigate and prosecute drug trafficking, to support foster care kids who experienced abuse or neglect, to expand access to forensic exams to prosecute violent crimes like sexual assault. These really senseless cancellations have already forced public safety organizations to cut employees and services. So I want to ask you, when you cut off the community-based violence intervention and prevention initiative funding, were you aware it is used to prevent and reduce violent crime?
Yeah, Senator, you weren't here for that, so I'm going to have to repeat myself. We have cut grants. I think we've cut 6%. But if we have cut a grant that you feel should not be cut, please reach out to me. I will personally look at it. We've turned multiple grants back on. Okay. We have an appeal process. But if you want to come to me directly, I would be happy to sit down with you and look at that and help you.
I'm happy. I appreciate
Again, we're doing everything we can.
Okay, but let me just ask you, when you cut off the expanding access to sexual assault forensic examination grant, were you aware that that grant helps our authorities prosecute rape and sexual assault?
I have no idea about that specific grant you're talking about. That's why I said, if you want to come sit down with me, I would never cut a grant
I appreciate that.
intentionally
It's
that
very
has
hard
anything
for those
to do.
recipients on the other end across the country.
Can you
to
give
get
me
a
the
phone
details of
interview.
that grant?
I can absolutely do that, and my staff will get that to you, but those are two critical ones that I just wanted to ask you about today.
Again, we've turned many grants back on and will continue to. If you want to call me and we can discuss them with you.
Okay, in your budget request, you propose consolidating the Office on Violence Against Women into the Office of Justice Programs. In 2002, Congress actually codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office to implement the Violence Against Women Act. We did that to make sure that violent crimes against women receive the necessary attention, expertise, and resources, and to give the office a strong, independent voice within the Justice Department and federal government. Now your department wants to fade that into the OJP, which violates the intent of the law that we passed. It makes grant programs less effective, and it places a lot more barriers for victims and services they need. And I see that you're cutting the office's resources by about a third. So will you commit to us, the Appropriations Committee, to follow the law and maintain OVW as a separate grant entity?
I will follow the law, but I will not keep that as a separate grant entity. You and I can disagree all day long on what the law is.
Well,
that's being consolidated into the Office of Justice Programs.
so
I'm not going to cut, let me answer, I'm not going to cut anything that's going to hurt violence against
Not
women.
my question.
It will
I'm
eliminate
asking, just for your information, Attorney General, in 2002, we codified the office as a permanent, separate, and independent office. So that you need to go back and take a look at that. I know my time is out, but I thank you very much for the time.
Let's start with Senator Murray's opening statement. She didn't mince words. She said we are living in a deeply alarming moment where, in her words, law and order is being replaced by chaos and corruption. That's not a throwaway line. That's a framing device. She's telling the American people that what's happening at DOJ isn't just policy differences. It's a breakdown of a system that's supposed to be independent of politics. Now, that's a big claim, and Murray backs it up by pointing to specific examples. She calls out the firing of career officials for simply doing their jobs, thousands more being pushed out, entire divisions being eliminated, and public safety grants being canceled, some of them illegally. Think about that. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are the people investigating drug trafficking in your community, the ones making sure survivors of domestic violence get access to forensic exams, and the lawyers prosecuting violent crimes. When those grants disappear overnight, real people get hurt, and justice is delayed or denied. Then, Murray raises a chilling point. Detainees, including U.S. citizens, being shipped overseas without due process. Elected officials detained for doing oversight. A senator tackled to the ground for asking questions at a press conference. This is the kind of imagery that makes you stop and ask, what country are we living in? This is a sitting senator saying that we're seeing behavior that doesn't match our values, and she's calling on Republicans and Democrats alike to be alarmed. Now, when she pivots to questions, she zeroes in on a whistleblower complaint accusing top DOJ officials of defying court orders, not just once, but repeatedly, and then retaliating against the whistleblower for brought it to light. That's serious. Following court orders isn't optional. It's the bedrock of our legal system. If DOJ itself is ignoring the courts, it sends a message that the law doesn't apply equally, that loyalty to a leader matters more than the Constitution. Bondi's response is telling. She promises to follow court orders, but frames the issue as a problem with district courts tying our hands, and then says the administration will follow the law when we get to the Supreme Court. That's not how it works. You don't get to ignore lower court rulings just because you hope the Supreme Court will eventually rule in your favor. Murray presses again, will you allow conduct like this to continue at DOJ? And Bondi refuses to give a direct yes or no. Instead, she says she'll defend her deputies, calling them the finest people I know. That's not a reassurance that the misconduct won't continue. That's a reassurance of loyalty. Then, Murray goes after one of the most tangible impacts of DOJ's decisions, the grants. Over 300 public safety grants abruptly terminated. Funding to prosecute sexual assault cases, to investigate violent crimes, to protect abused kids, gone. Bondi admits that yes, grants were cut by about 6%, but offers to personally review the ones Murray is worried about. Think about how that sounds to a community whose program has just been defunded. Call me personally, we'll see what we can do. That's not policy, that's politics. These programs went through a rigorous, apolitical process. They were already vetted. The cancellations were ideological, not budgetary, and communities are paying the price. Finally, Murray hammers on DOJ's proposal to fold the Office on Violence Against Women into another office, effectively downgrading its independence and visibility. Congress made that office independent for a reason, because violence against women needed a champion inside DOJ. Survivors needed a place they could turn to that wouldn't be buried under bureaucracy. By consolidating it, you risk losing focus, expertise, and urgency. Bondi's answer? She'll follow the law, but disagrees with Murray's interpretation of it, and will consolidate anyway. Here's the bigger picture. This hearing wasn't just about a few grants or a single whistleblower case. It's about whether the Department of Justice still operates as a neutral enforcer of the law, or whether it's becoming a political weapon. Patty Murray is saying the system is tipping toward corruption, and Pam Bondi's answers, which emphasized loyalty to individuals and defiance of lower courts, might actually prove her point. So what can we take away from this? For one, this shows why congressional oversight is so important. These hearings aren't just theater. They are one of the only tools lawmakers have to force the administration to answer tough questions in public. And it shows how fragile our democratic norms can be when the people in charge choose loyalty over legality.
This is where you come in. Do you think Senator Murray is right that law and order are being replaced by chaos? Or do you think these are just partisan fights over policy direction? Tell me in the comments, because this debate is bigger than just one committee room. And if you want more breakdowns like this, where we don't just replay the clip, but actually dig into why it matters, hit subscribe and share this video with someone who cares about democracy. The more we all understand what's happening in Washington, the harder it is for chaos to win over justice.